Imagine walking through a labyrinth. Every turn feels familiar. Every mistake is one you've made before. You trace your steps, convinced the exit must be near, yet you find yourself back where you began. This is the life of someone who never learns from their past. Wisdom seekers, today we unravel the threads of habit, those invisible routines that bind us to our past mistakes. What if I told you that the secret to mastering life isn't in some hidden treasure or rare insight, but in 10 habits that, once mastered, can free you from the endless cycle of repeating your errors? The Stoics, those ancient philosophers who walked the streets of Rome and Athens, believed that the key to a meaningful life was not in chasing fleeting pleasures, but in mastering the art of self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor, once wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Today, we take his words to heart as we explore habits that sharpen our awareness, temper our emotions, and guide us to better decisions. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Every like, subscribe helps us continue our mission of sharing knowledge. Ready to unlock more wisdom? Let's get started. Habit 1. Pause before you act. In the heat of any decision, there lies a brief but powerful moment, a space between the stimulus and your response. This space is where your power lies. To pause before acting is not weakness. It is the ultimate sign of strength. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught that we cannot control external events, but we can control how we react to them. The pause is where that control begins. Why do we so often leap without looking? It's because of our instincts, our emotions, and the habits ingrained from years of unexamined living. When faced with an insult, we lash out. When confronted with a temptation, we indulge. Each time, we think we're acting with purpose, but more often, we are reacting blindly, driven by impulses rather than reason. The pause allows you to regain your agency. It's the moment to ask, what is within my control? What is the wisest course of action here? Consider the life of Marcus Aurelius. As an emperor, he was surrounded by flatterers, betrayers, and crises of state. Yet he was known for his calm demeanor, his ability to listen and deliberate before making decisions. He wrote in his Meditations, "You always have the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to get worked up or to trouble your soul." This habit requires discipline. At first, you may still stumble, finding yourself speaking too soon, acting too rashly, but each time you catch yourself, you build the muscle of self-restraint. Start small. Before replying to a harsh email, pause, take a breath. Before accepting or rejecting an offer, reflect. Give yourself the gift of time. The benefits of this practice are immense. You begin to see situations with clarity rather than through the fog of emotion. Relationships improve because you no longer speak out of anger or frustration. Your decisions gain weight because they are rooted in thought rather than impulse. And most importantly, you stop repeating the mistakes of the past because you are no longer rushing blindly into the same traps. Habit 2. Detach from the outcome. One of the greatest sources of human suffering is our attachment to outcomes. We plan, we work, and we invest emotionally in what we believe should happen. But when life veers from our expectations, we feel betrayed by others, by circumstances, even by ourselves. This attachment leads to repeated mistakes as we cling to what cannot be controlled. The Stoics offered a liberating perspective. Focus on the process, not the result. Epictetus famously advised, "Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do. Then your life will go well." In essence, they taught us to let go of our obsession with outcomes and instead direct our energy toward what is in our power. Our actions, our efforts, our mindset. Think of how often you felt disappointment because the result didn't align with your vision. Perhaps you worked tirelessly on a project, only to see it dismissed or fail. Or maybe you invested in a relationship, hoping for reciprocation that never came. Each time you found yourself not only hurt, but hesitant to try again, fearing the same outcome. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means understanding the limits of your influence and finding peace in doing your part to the best of your ability. When you embrace this mindset, you become like an archer. You take careful aim, you steady your bow, and you release the arrow with precision. But once it leaves your hands, you understand that the wind, the target, and the forces beyond your control will play their part. This habit isn't easy. Our culture glorifies achievement, trophies, and results. But the truly wise know that satisfaction comes not from what we gain, but from how we live. Begin practicing this habit by identifying areas in your life where you are overly attached to outcomes. Ask yourself, have I done everything within my power? If so, can I let go of the rest? The freedom this brings is profound. No longer are you a slave to circumstances or the whims of fortune. You become a master of your own peace, knowing that your efforts are your own and that the results belong to the world. Habit 3. Reflect daily. The unexamined life, as Socrates declared, is not worth living. Mistakes are inevitable, but repeating them is a choice, and that choice often stems from a lack of reflection. Reflection is the process by which we distill the lessons of our experiences, turning them into wisdom. Without it, we drift through life, blind to the patterns and habits that hold us back. The Stoics placed great emphasis on self-reflection. Marcus Aurelius, in his nightly practice, would examine his day in detail, asking himself what he had done well, where he had fallen short, and how he could improve tomorrow. This was not an act of self-criticism, but of self-awareness, a means to grow, not to punish. Reflection is not limited to grand philosophical musings. It can be as simple as asking yourself 3 questions at the end of each day. What did I do well? What could I have done better? What will I do differently tomorrow? Write down your answers. In time, you will begin to notice patterns, the triggers for your mistakes, the habits that lead to success, the moments where you exercised virtue, and the moments where you fell short. The beauty of reflection is that it allows you to learn from your past without being imprisoned by it. You can see your errors not as failures, but as stepping stones to growth. This practice also cultivates gratitude, as you become more aware of the good in your life and the progress you've made. Many avoid reflection because it can be uncomfortable. It forces us to confront our flaws and take responsibility for our actions. But this discomfort is where growth begins. Seneca wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Reflection is how we learn. It is how we stop making the same mistakes and start building a life of wisdom and purpose. Make this a non-negotiable habit. Dedicate time each day, even if only 10 minutes, to sit with your thoughts. Keep a journal if it helps. The insights you gain will not only prevent you from repeating errors, but will guide you toward a more intentional, fulfilling life. Habit 4. Master your emotions. The storms of life are inevitable, but how you weather them depends entirely on your mastery over your emotions. Anger, fear, envy, and despair. These are the forces that cloud judgment, poison relationships, and lead us to repeat our mistakes. Without control over these inner tempests, we are like a ship without a rudder, endlessly battered by waves. The Stoics viewed emotional mastery as one of the highest virtues. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Most of the pain we endure comes not from events themselves, but from the way we react to them. To master your emotions is not to suppress them, but to transform them into allies rather than enemies. Imagine the moments when emotions have gotten the better of you. Perhaps you lashed out in anger and damaged a relationship, or fear paralyzed you from seizing an opportunity. These moments, if left unchecked, create patterns that we repeat again and again. But there is another way. Mastering your emotions begins with awareness. When you feel a strong emotion rising, pause. Observe it as if from the outside. Ask yourself, what is the source of this feeling? Is it proportionate to the situation? What action would a wiser version of myself take? This practice, often referred to as mindfulness today, is rooted in Stoic thought. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Developing this habit takes time and patience. Start by identifying your emotional triggers. What situations or people tend to provoke anger, fear, or envy in you? Reflect on why these reactions occur and whether they are rooted in reality or perception. Over time, you will find that your emotional responses become less automatic and more intentional. The benefits of emotional mastery extend to every area of life. Decisions become clearer because they are no longer clouded by impulsive feelings. Relationships deepen because you respond with understanding rather than reactivity. Most importantly, you gain a sense of inner peace, knowing that external events cannot dictate your state of mind. Emotional mastery does not mean living without passion or feeling. It means aligning your emotions with your values and your purpose, allowing them to guide you rather than control you. This is the essence of what it means to live a life of wisdom. Habit 5. Cultivate perspective. Perspective is the lens through which we view the world. A narrow lens magnifies problems and blinds us to solutions, while a broad lens reveals the bigger picture, helping us navigate life's challenges with grace and clarity. The ability to cultivate perspective is one of the most powerful tools for breaking free from the cycle of repeated mistakes. The Stoics often reflected on the vastness of the universe and the brevity of human life to cultivate perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Consider how swiftly all things are being carried past, and how many of them are already in the past and gone forever." This cosmic viewpoint reminds us that most of what we worry about is fleeting, trivial in the grand scheme of things. How often have you been consumed by a problem, only to look back years later and wonder why it mattered so much? Perspective allows us to fast forward that realization to the present moment. When faced with a challenge, ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? 5 years from now? In the span of a lifetime, how significant is this really? Perspective also involves considering the viewpoints of others. When we are entrenched in our own perspective, we are prone to conflict, misunderstanding, and repeated mistakes in our relationships. By stepping into another's shoes, we not only foster empathy, but also uncover solutions and opportunities we might otherwise miss. To cultivate this habit, practice reframing situations. When faced with a difficulty, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this? How can this serve my growth?" Keep a journal where you explore different perspectives on the same event. Over time, this practice will become second nature. The gift of perspective is profound. It reduces anxiety, fosters resilience, and helps us navigate life with wisdom. It prevents us from getting stuck in the same loops of thought and behavior, allowing us to see new paths and opportunities. Perspective is the key to transforming obstacles into stepping stones. Habit 6. Embrace delayed gratification. In an age of instant gratification, the ability to wait, to work toward long-term goals, and to delay pleasure is a rare and powerful skill. It is also one of the most effective habits for breaking the cycle of repeated mistakes. Many of our errors stem from seeking immediate rewards, be it a fleeting pleasure, a quick fix, or a hasty decision, without considering the long-term consequences. The Stoics were masters of self-discipline, often practicing voluntary discomfort to strengthen their ability to endure and delay gratification. Seneca, for example, would periodically live as though he were destitute, eating simple meals and wearing plain clothing, to remind himself that true contentment does not depend on luxury or excess. This practice allowed him to resist the temptations of wealth and power, focusing instead on what truly mattered. Why is delayed gratification so important? Because it teaches us to prioritize what is meaningful over what is easy. Consider how often mistakes are made in the pursuit of quick pleasure, overspending to feel a momentary thrill, abandoning a challenging task for the allure of distraction, or sacrificing a long-term goal for short-term comfort. Each of these choices leads to regret and stagnation. To embrace this habit, start by identifying areas in your life where instant gratification is holding you back. Is it in your spending habits, your diet, your work ethic? Once identified, practice small acts of restraint. Skip a minor indulgence today and channel that energy into a long-term goal. Over time, these small acts will build the mental muscle needed for greater challenges. Delayed gratification is not about deprivation. It's about alignment. It's about ensuring that your actions today serve your vision for tomorrow. When you cultivate this habit, you find a deeper sense of satisfaction, one that comes not from fleeting pleasures, but from meaningful accomplishments and personal growth. This habit is transformative because it shifts your focus from what is easy to what is worthwhile. It breaks the chains of impulsivity and opens the door to a life of purpose and intention. As the philosopher Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Embrace delayed gratification, and you will find that excellence is within your reach. Habit 7. Take radical responsibility. One of the most empowering habits you can cultivate is the ability to take full responsibility for your life, not just for your successes, but also for your failures, your decisions, and even your reactions to external events. It is tempting to blame others, circumstances, or even fate for our missteps, but this mindset keeps us trapped in a cycle of repetition, unable to break free from the same mistakes. The Stoics taught that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. Epictetus put it bluntly, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Taking radical responsibility means recognizing this truth and living by it. It means stepping out of the victim mindset and reclaiming your power. Think about the times when you've blamed others for your mistakes. Perhaps you blamed a partner for the failure of a relationship, or a boss for your lack of career growth. While external factors often play a role, true growth begins when you examine your part in the situation. What choices did you make? What warning signs did you ignore? What actions could you have taken differently? Radical responsibility doesn't mean beating yourself up or taking the blame for things beyond your control. It means focusing on what you can control: your thoughts, actions, and attitudes. This shift in mindset is liberating. When you take responsibility, you are no longer at the mercy of external forces. You become the author of your story, capable of rewriting it as you see fit. To practice this habit, begin by auditing your life. Pick an area where you feel stuck or dissatisfied and ask yourself, what role have I played in creating this situation? What steps can I take to change it? Avoid the temptation to make excuses or shift blame. Instead, focus on actionable changes you can make. This habit is not easy. It requires humility and courage to admit where you've fallen short. But it is also profoundly transformative. When you take responsibility, you gain clarity, resilience, and the ability to learn from your past. You stop repeating mistakes because you see them for what they are: opportunities for growth. This is the essence of empowerment, the foundation of a life lived with purpose and integrity. Habit 8. Value consistency over intensity. When we want to make a change or correct a mistake, we often go all in, fueled by a surge of motivation. But this intensity is rarely sustainable. We burn out, lose focus, and inevitably fall back into old patterns. The Stoics understood that lasting change is not about grand gestures, but about consistent, deliberate effort over time. Seneca observed, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." Consistency is daring. It is the act of showing up every day, even when it feels monotonous or when progress is invisible. It is the quiet power behind all great achievements. Consider the difference between a flash of effort and a steady routine. Imagine someone who decides to get fit. They might work out intensely for a week, pushing themselves to exhaustion, but without consistency, their efforts fade and they see no results. Contrast this with someone who exercises moderately but consistently over months and years. The latter builds strength, endurance, and discipline, not just in their body, but in their mind. This principle applies to every area of life. Relationships thrive not from occasional grand gestures, but from daily acts of kindness and attention. Skills are mastered not through bursts of practice, but through steady, focused learning. Mistakes are corrected not by dramatic resolutions, but by incremental adjustments. To cultivate this habit, start small. Choose one area where you want to improve and commit to consistent action. Whether it's journaling, exercising, saving money, or practicing a skill, focus on building a routine rather than chasing immediate results. Track your progress and celebrate small victories along the way. The power of consistency lies in its compounding effect. Over time, small actions add up to significant change. More importantly, consistency rewires your identity. You become someone who follows through, someone who values effort over outcomes. This shift in mindset is what prevents you from falling back into old habits and repeating past mistakes. Consistency is not glamorous, but it is transformative. It is the steady drumbeat of progress, the quiet force that turns intentions into realities. Embrace it, and you will find that the life you desire is built not in a day, but in the moments you dedicate to it daily. Habit 9. Practice humility. Humility is often misunderstood as weakness or self-deprecation, but in truth, it is one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. Humility allows us to see ourselves clearly, to recognize our limitations, and to remain open to learning and growth. Without humility, we become rigid, defensive, and prone to repeating the same mistakes because we refuse to acknowledge them. The Stoics held humility in high regard. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men of his time, constantly reminded himself of his mortality and the limits of his knowledge. He wrote, "Do not think yourself harmed, and you have not been." This acknowledgement of his own fallibility allowed him to lead with wisdom and integrity rather than arrogance. Why is humility so crucial for personal growth? Because it keeps us grounded. It prevents us from overestimating our abilities or blaming others for our failures. When we lack humility, we are blind to feedback, resistant to change, and quick to defend our egos. This mindset traps us in cycles of repetition, unable to learn from our errors. Practicing humility begins with listening to others, to feedback, and to your own inner voice. When someone points out a flaw or mistake, resist the urge to defend yourself. Instead, ask, "What can I learn from this?" When faced with failure, instead of blaming external factors, reflect honestly on what you could have done differently. Humility also involves recognizing the vastness of what you do not know. As Socrates famously said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." This awareness is not a cause for despair, but a call to curiosity. It invites you to approach life as a student, always eager to learn and grow. The benefits of humility are profound. It fosters stronger relationships, as people are drawn to those who listen and learn, rather than boast and dominate. It accelerates personal growth, as you become open to new ideas and perspectives. Most importantly, it breaks the cycle of repeated mistakes by allowing you to see and correct your errors without the distortions of ego. Humility is a quiet but powerful habit. It is the foundation of wisdom, the antidote to arrogance, and the key to lifelong learning. Embrace it, and you will find not only freedom from your past mistakes, but also the strength to navigate life with grace and purpose. Habit 10. Live with intention. The final habit, and perhaps the most encompassing of all, is to live with intention. It is all too easy to drift through life on autopilot, reacting to events, following routines, and chasing goals that may not even align with our deepest values. Living without intention is like sailing without a destination. You may move, but you are unlikely to arrive anywhere meaningful. The Stoics emphasized intentional living as a cornerstone of a virtuous life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have work to do as a human being." This work, for the Stoics, was to live in accordance with nature, reason, and virtue. Intention was not about rigid planning, but about aligning daily actions with a larger purpose. Living with intention requires clarity. What do you value most? What kind of person do you want to become? What legacy do you want to leave behind? These questions form the compass of your life. Without answering them, you risk chasing goals dictated by societal pressures, fleeting desires, or the expectations of others. Once you have clarity, living intentionally becomes a daily practice. It's not about grand declarations, but about small, consistent choices that reflect your values. When faced with a decision, ask yourself, does this align with the life I want to lead? Does it serve my highest purpose? Over time, these choices accumulate, shaping not just your actions, but your character. Intentional living also involves the courage to say no. In a world filled with distractions, invitations, and demands, saying yes to everything dilutes your focus and scatters your energy. By saying no to what does not serve your purpose, you create space for what truly matters. This habit is transformative because it brings meaning to every aspect of your life. Work becomes more fulfilling because it is tied to a larger purpose. Relationships deepen because they are chosen and nurtured with care. Even challenges become opportunities for growth because they are viewed through the lens of intentionality. The habit of living with intention is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. It requires regular reflection and adjustment as your values and goals evolve. But the rewards are profound: a life of purpose, clarity, and freedom from the mistakes born of aimlessness. To live with intention is to live as the best version of yourself, fully awake to the possibilities of each moment. Final thoughts, your path forward, wisdom seekers. As we draw this journey to a close, reflect on the habits we've explored together. These 10 practices, mastering your emotions, cultivating perspective, delaying gratification, taking responsibility, embracing humility, and the others, are not mere actions but ways of being. They are tools to help you break free from the cycles of regret and repetition, guiding you toward a life of growth, fulfillment, and resilience. Remember, change does not happen overnight. Transformation is a gradual process, born of consistent effort and unwavering commitment. Start small. Choose one habit that resonates most with you and integrate it into your daily life. Over time, as these practices take root, you will find yourself not only learning from your past, but thriving because of it. The Stoics taught us that while we cannot control the world, we can control ourselves. And in mastering ourselves, we find the power to shape our destiny. As Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. You have the knowledge, the tools, and the strength within you to break free from old patterns and create a life of purpose. Go forth, wisdom seekers, and embrace the journey. Make mistakes, learn from them, and grow. For it is in this cycle of effort and reflection that we find the essence of what it means to truly live.